Now I'm going to see who accepts the stream.
What'd you say?
Who's the facilitator?
I am. It's me.
Okay, Twitch has accepted the stream.
Great.
YouTube has accepted the stream. Facebook always takes a little bit longer to accept the stream. Facebook has accepted the stream. Now, I am going to put the show on the Peace Center website, which is something Vicki is always asking me to do.
Okay.
She says, we want the people who follow the Peace Center to be able to see it. Okay.
And before we start, we're going to start off with values. And I'll start with you, Santiago, and then I'll just go the way I see it on my screen. I'll go to you, Christian, Terry, Maria, and then Dr. Fajardo.
You're talking about values and
Yes.
principles
Values and principles. Yes.
regarding
Hispanic Heritage Month, how your feelings on it and how it's your identity, anything.
Yeah, this month is very important to Latino people because the most important value in our culture is
But wait, you have to save it. You have to save it until we start.
oh, never mind.
Empezaste demasiado temprano, Santiago.
Okay, we are ready to go on the air if you're ready to go on the air.
I'm ready to go.
Okay. So there's a clock at the bottom of the screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
It has a 5.
Yes.
It's going to count down, and when it says on the air, you are on the air, okay?
Great.
Here we go.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, recorded at Think Twice Radio, and the home of Richard Wicca. Thank you, Richard. This is being recorded live on Buffalo's original alternative radio station, 91.3 FM, coming out of Buff State. And thank you, everyone at Buff State. And as we are in the spirit of thankfulness, we want to recognize that we are on stolen Haudenosaunee land. Right here in the studio, we're in Seneca land, and whenever they start their events, especially the Haudenosaunee, they start with thankfulness. And we just want to say thank you for everyone here today. Thank you for the air, the wind, the trees, the earth, the land that we stand on, and thank you to the creator of all of it, God. So, and that's how they start off every event that they do. And today, sitting with us, we have a beautiful group of people. We have here, sitting next to me in the studio, Santiago, and he is the owner of Buen Amigo on Elmwood. It's a fair trade store, and it means a lot to me, so thank you for coming, Santiago. And then we also have Christian Parra, who is the National Director of People's Action. And also he works with Push for Latino. And we also have Terry Beeson, who is a professor at Canisius College, a math professor, but he also is in charge of the Latin American Solidarity Committee Task Force for Western New York Peace Center, and he holds monthly peace coffee houses at Canisius College. And then we have someone special to me, my mentor, my professor, Dr. Fajardo, or Paola, and she's been a very good friend of mine. She's my professor, and she's taught me so much, and I'm really glad that she can make it today. And we have besides her is Maria, who is the daughter of Santiago, and we are here today to talk about Hispanic Heritage Month. It was previously, it was from September 15th to October 15th, but it doesn't matter. It's October 17th. We can still talk about it. We want to empower the Latino community. Even though I'm not Latino, I still want to learn about your heritage and everything that you have contributed to America and Buffalo. So I'm grateful for all of you guys here today. We all start with values, and I'll start with you, Santiago. Concerning this topic, what values do you think about?
Yes, about Latino people, the most important value is the family. Okay, that is the foundation of our culture, and without that, we are missing something really very important. Okay, and of course, it's a lot of values in our culture. One is respect, okay? Another is, besides respect, is fidelity. In many instances, many times, it's missing. But fidelity is so key in our culture because all the time we remember our fatherland. We never forgot that. We longer for the people we leave behind. Okay, and that is part of our, let me say, the backbone of what we are.
Wow. So family, respect, and fidelity, which also means loyalty, which
Yes.
is very beautiful. Thank you, Santiago. And Christian?
I don't know how I'm supposed to do an act after that. You took a lot of the cultures I believe in. But one of the big things that I do care about is definitely, I agree with everything, family, respect, loyalty, is the transformation through the systems of oppression that Latinos have to go through, especially our women in our culture dealing with patriarchy. And to demolish that completely is part of my views, because I was suicidal before I got clear that I'm not a victim no more. I'm a survivor in this world, and it was because of women. Listening to their stories really made me think I can't believe how powerful women are in this world. And you know, like in my values, it's just to make sure like people like my mom, who was a young lord, a social worker for 43 years in the Bronx, retired now, but had to deal with like my dad and had to deal with the systems that she lived in and kept a lot in, like secrecy, like you're not supposed to talk about that in the public arena. And my values is for people to start telling their story, do not like the systems of oppression, and for all people in general, man, female, or binary people, to start talking and speaking up, because the systems don't want us to speak up. They want us to be separated. They want us to be segregated. And it's time to, in my values, to build enough power to elect a Latino in 9 years for president, as I'm organizing in 30 states. And I'll pass it. No, you pass it. Sorry.
Yeah, Terry, or anyone can jump in. You know, it doesn't have to be structured.
Yeah. Well, that was, it's always, so, you know, the task force that I work with, and I really, I just convene the planning meetings, which we have on the first Monday of every month at Canisius College, because they're gracious enough through the Peace Action to let us use space there for our coffee house presentations, which are for the public. But anyway, the task force is Latin America's solidarity. And, you know, solidarity is partly what Christian was talking about. You know, the fact that, well, solidarity, I define the sort of Latin America solidarity as meaning solidarity across the Western Hemisphere, because, and the majority of the Western Hemisphere is Latin America. So it's a matter, solidarity is a matter of accompanying people, trying to learn about this, what struggles they're going through, and also learning in what ways perhaps the political system in the United States might be making their life harder instead of easier. And we definitely, as part of the Peace Center, we founded ourselves as trying to make to at least have some tiny input into the way American foreign policy works throughout the hemisphere, and try to make sure that we're, changing from being a bully in the Western Hemisphere to being a colleague. And also, that part of that is to learn from the experiences of all the different self-governing units in the Western Hemisphere, and the organizing that is so inspiring throughout Latin America. Organizing is the part that we try to learn about and try to accompany in solidarity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you and Christian are both speaking of the same thing, like these systems of oppression, and how as a continent, Latin America, they have to stand together, and we need colleagues, not someone who's looking to exploit. So thank you for that. Either Paola or Maria.
So I agree 100% with what everyone said, with what my father said about the values that he holds dear are the same as mine: family, fidelity, loyalty, and respect. I teach English as an additional language to refugees and immigrants from a variety of countries, including some Central American countries. And one thing that I just really, it just hits home is when I see people talking down to others just because of where you're born. And no one is better than anyone else. And so I strongly feel that elevating one, you have to elevate everyone. You can't just pick and choose who is going to go to a higher plane in education or in opportunities. If everyone succeeds, it's just better. And it's just been horrifying this week. It's just it's weighing heavy on me and on my heart, what's happened. And, there's no winners in war. And it's devastating for everyone. And I've wept, and I can't even watch the news anymore just because it's horrifying what has happened. And sadly, this scene of terror has happened across the world in so many countries and in South America, and how many coups that have occurred in South America. And so when we came to the United States in 1977 as political refugees, we had opportunities to go to other countries. We were given asylum in other countries, but my parents chose to come to the United States because my parents felt that here the people were misinformed. The government would have a narrative, and many people just believe that narrative, but not realizing that there's human people behind this horrific scene that they're saying that, they demonize a whole group. And so my parents said, no, we're going to the United States because they need to see that Chilenos are not bad people. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful to the beautiful people of Buffalo who took us in. Catholic Charities took us under their wing, and the beautiful Puerto Rican people at Holy Cross Church, accepted us as family. And I'm so grateful to the good people of Buffalo for that. And so being Latino for me is helping everyone who is Latino, but also everyone else who is, discriminated in one way or another. So I'm sorry I got a little off topic there, but it was really just hurting my heart. This week was really heavy and really difficult.
Yeah, I feel like I felt like we couldn't, leave this discussion without talking about the real realities that are happening right now in the Middle East. And I think it all roots to the same thing of discrimination and racism exist everywhere, and there's genocide happening, and we have to talk about it and acknowledge it because it can't go unspoken of.
Very pleased to be here, and thank you for everybody. I mean, listening to all of you talking about your values, your life experiences is refreshing and it brings me hope, because when you ask me about hope, about values, I'm thinking similarly to my colleagues in the table about family, about equality. Obviously, coming from my human rights background, is about equality, non-discrimination, and Maria was just mentioned that we all are human beings, and humanity is the most important thing for me. And so to look at individuals and not to see humanity, to look at individuals and look down at them, is something that is confronting, at least for me, the most important value that I hold, which is like equality and solidarity. And I think that it's sad to see that all of a sudden we are reminded of how valuable and important these values are, and how much we can do to try to support them wherever we are, whether it is in Nicaragua, where also we have very whole of violations going on, at school, our families. I think that the important thing here that I'm listening is that all these values are on us, and we have to live through them, and we have to support them, and we have to be like truthful and champions, as many of you guys are doing in your work advancing this. So thank you, everybody. But I think that it's amazing to hear all these values. So back over to you, Sameria.
Thank you. Yeah, humanity and equality is, I think that's a good encapsulation of like everything that we said. But for me, some values that I want to bring to the table, I think that resilience, just looking at the historical, what happened in Latin America or South America, the history, and how Christopher Columbus came and, just decided and brought all these diseases and exploited the land and took the resources. I think what people stood up and what's happening today, I think we can just think of resilience, how Latinos are resilient people, and we should recognize that. And also, probably the other value that I want to bring is acceptance. That we shouldn't discriminate against other people because we can't relate to them. They don't look like us, but we should accept them for who they are and what their soul looks like, not what their being is or what they look like physically. So those are the values that I would like to bring. And before we move on to our next topic, I want to give the floor over to Terry, because we're going to be talking about the difference between Indigenous Peoples Day and Christopher Columbus Day, because I believe Christopher Columbus Day just passed because the students had off that day, but I think in some schools, in some spaces, they're still calling it Christopher Columbus Day, and I want to really get into why this name has to be changed completely. So Terry, if you want to start off with that.
Yes, unfortunately. Well, so I think that the best way for me to speak to that is just to invite everybody to consider coming on Monday, October 30th. That's a week from next Monday, to Canisius Science Hall, 7 to 9 p.m. And we're going to have a really interesting presentation by Dr. Agnes Williams, who directs the Indigenous Women's Initiative, and also by Audrey Mang, who is one of the co-founders, essentially, of the Western New York Peace Center. And they're going to be talking about the recent pressure on the Catholic Church to repudiate the doctrine of discovery that authorized the taking of land as long as the land was not occupied by Christians. And it's a complicated story, but it's going to be very interesting, and they're going to use that as a springboard for all kinds of issues relating Indigenous issues. And, the story of the Western Hemisphere and Latin America is essentially a mixing of all the peoples without trying to subjugate any of them. So,
And what time?
It's fun to come and to these coffee houses, because it's a good time it's a good way of meeting other people and not staying isolated behind watching a television, but instead being able to talk to people about issues and initiatives to sort of readjust things to be more just, have more justice. So unfortunately, I have to leave.
Yeah, I know you
So
have to go. It's okay.
I think you guys will have a great discussion on all these things, but meanwhile, I'll be singing at my choir rehearsal. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Terry, for joining us.
Bye,
Have
Yeah,
Terry.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, yeah, I hope we can all attend that. He didn't give, I don't know, did he mention the time or the day that Peace Coffee House was? It's usually on Mondays
Monday.
Mondays at 7. So if you,
Tonight.
okay,
He
yeah.
wrote it on the chat.
Oh, did he? Okay, I can't see the chat, but,
Oh,
But
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it says October 30th.
oh, October 30th, okay. So yeah, on the topic of Indigenous people versus, Indigenous Peoples Day versus Columbus Day, do you guys have any feelings or thoughts about that and how people are still referring to it as Christopher Columbus Day? And how can we work to change that so that it is completely changed to Indigenous Peoples Day?
I think very quickly I would just react thinking on my experience from Colombia, growing on Colombia, celebrating Christopher Columbus Day, and always wondering, so why do we celebrate the day? What happened in that day was not necessarily positive from we, all the Latin American people. And I think that as with many stories or with many moments in history, you rethink what is the meaning of this. And those who tell the story get to choose what is the meaning of this. And as of now, I feel that at least in Colombia and in Latin America, we have a huge debate because we had this statue of Christopher Columbus and we don't want it anymore. So, but that generated a lot of self-reflecting. So why is that we believe we were told we were defined by the other who arrived. We were told we were not worth it. We were told that we have to then walk away from our culture. But what I'm seeing is that recently, actually, no, that's not right. And we have to self-discover who we are and how can we change this day to reflect and remember and no longer be defined by somebody else, but to think about what we have here, the richness, the values, the traditions that we have and how this could be important. I imagine that again, I'm learning how is this day celebrating here in the United States. So I just give the floor to my colleagues if they want to react as well.
Yeah, in the same line, Doctora Fajardo talking about, I put a little history because here is, they say Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes.
And recognize just one wild, one genetic wild, the Hispanic. And where is the Latin American, what is the Latin American people? Where is the black African people? And one philosopher during the Mexican Revolution in about 1910, he say, we are the race of brass, the brass race. We are not black, we are not white, we are not Latin American, we are the brass race. Because it's a conjunction, the richness of the three genetic wild, especially Latin American people, what in that time was the large majority of people in this continent. Second one is the invaders, called conquistadores, called colonizadores, but there was not a Christian approach to the another race. And the black African people, the richness of the Latin American people give to the humanity the food, the language, the values of Latin American people. The endurance, what the black people survive, the way they overcome the hate, overcome the racism, overcome the genocides. And bother me, a president of the United States recognize just one word, okay? And say the independence of Mexico, independence Chile, independent of another country, and they say Hispanic. No, we are Latino people. We recognize our root. We recognize the value of the African people. We recognize of the white people, and we recognize the Latin American people. It's so unique. For example, just a few moments ago, we mentioned the barbaric situation happened in the Middle East. Not happened just last week. Happened over 75 years. Okay? What happened in Ukraine and in Russia? It's not just now. It's an older situation and create, especially after the Second War. So when we put the finger just in today without see the history, we deceive ourselves. We need to recognize the history. We need, the most important thing, recognize the truth. Because the truth is many times is a lie and writing book. And a few governors in this country try to suppress the truth. And absolutely wrong. When not allow the book be in college or in school is absolutely wrong. Okay? Because they hiding the truth to the future generation.
Yeah. I remember being in middle school, learning, teachers would tell us, like, they would just tell us the basics of, the Christopher Columbus, he came and then he started this whole thing, and, more people, all the Europeans started to migrate here, and then they didn't really go into, like, the history, so my knowledge is limited, so that's why I wanted to take the time and really learn from you guys and know the truth, like you were speaking of, like let's get to the truth of the matter.
Yeah, I would just like to add, like, the fact that this started slavery, this started white supremacy, this started capitalism, racism, in many ways that people came in training Christianity in a way that was to control people, so that people don't become rebels, people don't become activists, and people actually defend themselves. This created a culture of whiteness taking over and destroying our cultures, destroying our religions, and, creating these boarding schools that they would force these kids to go into, and teach them what they want to teach them, right? Put them in uniforms and not the clothes that they would use that they got, from the land itself. Which these cultures that was created not by indigenous people, but white supremacy, to control the education system, to control the narrative, the television, the things that our kids watch, and makes people fall into temptation rather than staying in their values. And like, I'm a straight up person, and I think once I learned about, once again, the systems of oppression, who created them and who benefits, what's the cost if we don't actually become the activists and organizers for our culture? It gets erased, and people make profit off of this. People make profit because they take our land little by little, or if not, as fast as they can. And we even seen it in Buffalo, and how the different cultures, from Polish to Italian to Puerto Ricans, now refugees. And what is it soon to be as soon as they get these developers to do these massive buildings, right? This all stems back to white supremacy. And I just want to be like, straight up, why is it Indigenous Day more than it is just Columbus Day? I mean, to me, it should be a day that we celebrate our ancestors that fought for us to be where we're at today. There's so many people on this call that even 50 years ago, we can't organize this. If not, we'll be considered a target by white supremacy. So, like, to me personally, it's, how far do people want to take the fight, right? Rather than just saying the words, but actually doing leadership development to train the next generations that it's time for us to take over this nation. But it's a choice that we have to make, because if not, the dominant narrative will always be in control, because they have the money, they have the resources, they're organizing every single day. They could probably be organizing in their nice little place on Delaware, the mansion that's over there. I forgot what it's called. The country clubs that they have throughout all of Western New York. They're organizing every single day for policing, militarism, and we're not getting the real solutions for Latinos to not fall into the school to prison pipeline. There's a lot of things that came from the roots of white supremacy. And it's time to abolish that completely, because the modern day slavery still exists. And it all stems back from what the Europeans have brought that culture to us, which is a very patriarchal culture.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Anyone else?
As far as how we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, I think it's part of a great awakening in the education system in the United States. I remember when we were little, we learned about the Pilgrims and we learned about Thanksgiving, and it was so glorified, and we just saw it through the lens of a child. And Columbus Day also through the lens of a child, and how simplified it was that, these 3 ships came over. But then as we grew older, we recognized what he did. Like, he was just one of thousands of colonizers that came and changed the trajectory of millions of people's lives, cut them short. And so it's sad that so many Americans, in particular Italian Americans, are offended, and they feel that they have been maligned, or that their identity has been stripped from them because we're trying to take their holiday away. And we're not trying to take their holiday away. We're not trying to say that Columbus didn't do these things. It's just we're trying to also acknowledge what happened after, and that millions of people died as a consequence. And I don't think they're understanding that. They think that we're trying to take something away, when in reality we're just trying to enlighten them. And I mean, we have to be very careful. We live in a country where I think over 100 books were banned last year. Books that are beautiful. Some are children's books, picture books that have been deemed dangerous because it doesn't fit what people want children to know. And that's just the beginning. I mean, if we let these books be banned, then that's just the beginning, and it's just going to get worse. Oh, that doesn't fit what we want children to know, so we're going to ban more books. Well, you can't do that. We're supposed to be a quote unquote free country, and that's why it's so laughable. We are not a free country when we're banning books. We are not a free country when we are allowing people in school boards who are elected officials to dictate that public schools are now Christian schools. That's not public education. Public education means that you respect all religions, the Jewish religions, the Muslim, the Buddhist, whatever religion it is, or even the students who don't have a religion. And sadly, our country is losing our freedom every day, and people are happy about it and not realizing that they're shooting themselves in the foot. And they need to understand that we're not taking anything away from them. We just need to show them, be careful, because what you're doing is you're taking away freedom. You're not giving freedom. You're taking it away. And that's very frightening. So we need to applaud the brave people who are saying this is Indigenous Peoples Day. And we need to applaud people that are saying you cannot ban books anymore. We need to applaud people that are fighting for freedom, and people are disgusted because they're saying you're doing the wrong thing. We can't hide behind our Christian values. We're a Christian country, but we're not. We say we are, but we're supposed to love everyone equally. We're supposed to love and respect everyone, and we don't. And that's horrible.
That was so nicely, eloquently put. And we say we're a Christian nation, but we don't act like it at all. And what you said about banning books, has everyone read the book Open Veins of Latin America? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've just heard about it because I talked to you about it, and I was going to read it, and I'm trying to read it. I just bought the audiobook, but I'm really excited about. I listened to some of it, and it talks mostly about how they use the term like the conquistadors. They raped the land, and they exploited it of its resources, and then you talk about like you try to tell the Italians that we understand that Christopher Columbus, like, he's your guy, but do you see what he's done? Do you see like what he started, and how you have to, like, we're trying to empower the indigenous people that experience this, that those people who died from all these diseases and the genocide that happened. So it's really tough, and I'm all I can hope and pray for is that justice is brought to light, and that we have more representation, not even just in the federal level, but also like locally, more Latinos in the local government of the city of Buffalo. So that's everything that you guys said was spot on, and the education system. We want the kids to speak about, learn about Christianity, but is that going to help them know the truth? I don't know. So thank you guys for your input. And also I wanted to speak on, Maria, you said that you, and Santiago, you came here as a political asylum. And I can relate to that because my mom also came as a political asylum from Liberia. And can you speak more about that, why you came here, and how that was coming here? And Catholic Charities helped you guys come and settle here. So how was that? And I just want to know more because my mom always talks about it. So
Yeah, the experience was in my family. My daughter explained very well at
Bye,
the
Dr.
beginning.
Fajardo. Thanks for coming.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need you and Buen Amigo, please. Okay, thank you. Now is the personal situation when we come here is what hit us, to my wife and myself, the colder culture compared with the Latino culture. Okay, and I say to a priest, very good friend of mine, David Gallivan, Father, this sure is dead. Because it's not the vibration, it's not the passion, it's not in the way we express faith, and we express hope, and we embrace love through our communities. That what was a shock, cultural shock. But my daughter explained so well. The Puerto Rican people was so generous with us. The Holy Cross family embraced my family and support us. Of course, the language was tough. For me, still is tough. Very difficult.
Yeah.
But the experience, the reason why we come here, why? Because in Chile was a dictatorship. Suppress freedom, suppress the right to keep your family in place, suppress liberty, okay? And they running a country like belong just to them, the white supremacists running also in the Latin countries, okay? And we witness who is coming here in this immigration? Poor people.
Yeah.
Who create that problem? That problem is created here in the United States. Sad to say.
Yeah.
Because they demanding natural product like coffee, like banana, fruit, and so on. But the economical establishment of the United States demanding from the people control the economy in poor country is white people. And when poor people working in plantain, working in the valley, working in mountain, demanding very low salary, pennies per hour.
Yes.
And when they raise the voice for the injustice, what they say, you are a communist. What is not. It's just people demanding the right to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that when they say communist, they mean right away the army, the police kill that people. After today. No can say, no, that happened 20 years. No, happened today.
Yeah.
It's sad. The portion of the so many immigrant people is economical reason. And who create the problem? United States.
Yes.
And here, the politicians turn a blind eye. They don't want to see that reality. That is my opinion, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think more and more people are getting educated and understanding that a lot of the military coups that occurred in Latin America were caused in part by the backing of the CIA. And people are finally understanding that the United States got involved in many conflicts throughout the world for their interest. And unfortunately, in an indirect way, ruining those countries, ruining their economies, ruining their infrastructure, and creating a problem where people have to flee and people have to leave those countries. And so if you follow the immigration patterns and refugee patterns, it's somehow, like what is that game, 15 degrees or 5 degrees to Kevin Bacon? I forget what it is, but if you follow a lot of the patterns of conflict and war in many countries, it always leads back somehow to the United States involvement.
Yeah.
And so it's horrifying. And so we became political refugees after the CIA backed the military coup on September 11th, 1973 in Chile.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1971, there was an election in Chile that chose a socialist government. And at that time, the United States feared a sandwich, a communist sandwich with Cuba in the north and Chile in the south. And they started the embargoes and sanctions, crippling the economy of a stable country. And then many people were arrested and killed, tortured. Some people are still missing. And if anyone wants to watch a really good movie, if they're not readers, Sissy Spacek and Jack Lemmon were in an excellent movie called Missing.
What is it called again?
And Missing, and it depicts the events of the last few months of the journalist from the United States who was killed by the Chilean government, which was backed up by the United States. So we came here. We were heartbroken, obviously, but we were very grateful because the United States essentially saved our lives, which is ironic, right? But we're very grateful to the American people. We're very grateful to the opportunities that we've been given. I'm an American citizen now, so I consider myself bicultural, bilingual. My heart is always going to be back home where my family is and where I was born. But I'm very grateful that we're here and that we're alive and that my dad is alive because he was a political prisoner for 2.5 years in Chile. So it's always bittersweet. Immigration is always got two sides, right? So thank you for asking about that.
Of course, yeah. And just to add on to that, I read a book in college called The United Fruit Company, and it was about this company in Guatemala that was owned, I believe, by the United States. But then Arbenz, which was the president at the time, I think this was happening in the 1900s, late 1900s, and the CIA actually did a military coup because they thought he was a communist, but he was actually trying to take the company back to the Guatemalan people, and it just goes to say, like, during that time frame, you know, the United States was just pointing at everyone, calling everyone a communist, and then they would bring the CIA in and do what they wanted to happen, and it would cause chaos and you know, chaos in the government, and just lead to a lot of dysfunction in the country, which kept the people down. So, thank you for your input on that. And Christian, do you have anything to say about immigration? Because it's a very hot topic in our country, and I know what Santiago said, it's all about money. You know, it's all about we only see an influxion of migrants come in when we need them, when they benefit the country and they benefit the economy. So it's really sad that we are so money driven here in America.
The one thing I will say is that there is a lot of fighters because of DACA, the dreamers, like the kids that fought hard on the front line to get their DACA. And, you know, there's a lot of powerful people that I know in Colorado, throughout the states, Nevada, that are busting their ass every single day just to make sure that immigrants are able to get a driver's license, to make sure that they're getting, you know, the rights to documents to work. There's a lot of obstacles that immigrants have to go through just to even get some freedom, which leads them into temptation. And any arrest, right, they get deported. There's no second chance. Families getting separated, houses getting raided in the morning right before going to school as a little kid. And the stories that stay in my head through one-on-ones because of organizing stories and organizing that pain into action. There's a lot of organizers that I've met that never organized until they started realizing how angry they were at the system. But, you know, like, I think about even my executive director, Sulma Aris, who she was had to go through a whole bunch of stages around her family being deported and her fighting in this country. And there's a lot of people that, you know, wind up fighting, but there's people that give up, you know, and it falls into other ways to get rid of the pain, drinking, drugs, because of the separations, right? Like I always say, like, people fall into holes and cracks because of the lack of love. And, you know, it sucks to hear when families get separated. And I think especially when I have one-on-ones or agitating someone to uncover like powerless behaviors, and sometimes it's around their trauma. But like, I don't want them to see that as their trauma no more. I want them not to be a victim in this world, but to be a survivor, to create chaos because of what happened in their lives. I truly believe in the transformation that we all need in order to build power. Like Santiago saw me when I was just a baby in organizing. I would actually organize in his storefront to make sure that Latinos were being heard, because when I first came, any organization that started with the word Hispanic were the only ones getting funding. And they never did any real advocacy work around mass incarceration, housing justice, climate justice. It saddens me that that is the case. But it takes a group of like fearless, rigorous organizers to create a culture of organizing. Because a lot of people, when they get what they want, they shake the hand of people that are hooked by the right wing. And we have to just be careful about how we talk about our liberation, our freedom, our dignity, especially for our culture to continue. Because sometimes people are putting themselves in the position of not speaking up. When you have so many Latino organizations getting $10 million, $20 million just for an idea, and they're not speaking not once about, you know, why is our kids coming from different parts of the world that speak Spanish failing in school and falling into the school to prison pipeline? There's just a lot of advocacy that is not being done for people to speak up. But to me, it's the it's the education that the system is not teaching our kids, and that's power. Like, what is power, right? Some people get stuck in their head watching TV, stuck video games, the phones, right? Power is the ability to act. And a lot of kids are not having the ability to act because white supremacy has created programs, created the education system to get these kids to fall into the cracks that they want. And it makes me super angry that the systems do exist. And I think that a lot of people get stuck in this victim mode, and it's not their fault. That their hurt and their pain is valid and is real, and their emotions are real. But at the same time, those stories need to come to light. And I said that even before, because if we don't tell our stories, then we're just letting the system be stronger. That's the cost. And everything that we do in our organizing world, there's a cost to the things that we build, the things that we say. I'm known as somebody that's like a radical person in organizing. But I try to do my best to uncover people's self-interest, to move them towards a path to power. I don't empower nobody. You got to empower yourself to realize how much value you actually bring to the movement. The movement is one of the most sacred places I've ever been, because everywhere I've been in organizing, it's been about authenticity. I'm not known for somebody that's going to shake the hand of somebody because I'm trying to make a deal. If I'm shaking the hand, it's because we have a victory. We have a campaign victory. Like when I worked on the municipal level, all the policies that I've worked on has been to try to support the inequalities of how Black and Latinos have been treated in this country, and to create the policies that will stop letting cops harass us whenever they want to just because we're Latino or Black. As a person that went through illegal stop and frisk, and a formerly incarcerated person that carries a lot of dominant narratives as a straight Latino man. We got to break all those dominant narratives so that we can start building a system that includes everybody, and also the economy that includes everybody, the school system that includes everybody. There's too many people excluded, and people are not even listening to the stories. There's kids that's in school right now that their parents were taken from them, and they're not allowed to tell that story. They just need to learn American culture. And to me, it's super upsetting to think about the kids that feel like they have no voice until they meet somebody that agitates them to let them realize what's holding them back from acting powerfully in this world. Because there's just a lot of pain. I've had at least, I don't even know, I've had thousands of one-on-ones, but at least 200 plus of them have been with immigrants, and their stories will bring people to tears if they actually listen to them. Because it is not right. It is not right. You got little babies being adopted, and their parents have to go back to Mexico, while their kid is being saved here by DACA, or being saved here because they became a citizen and not their parents. And next thing you know, they never get to meet their parents ever in their life. And the truth is, ICE needs to be destroyed. It does not make sense for ICE to exist. If people want to work in this country, they should have the right to work in this country. And there's so many people that have been fighting for that, all the way from Cesar Chavez and other people that have fought for the labor rights so that people can live a life here in America. White supremacy does not want us to live free, and also Latinos, Blacks, and they want to keep the modern day slavery as much as possible. The same way that there is to this day more Latinos and Blacks in prison than there ever was in slavery. And they're making profit for every single body. And especially in those ICE detention centers like the one in Batavia, they get overly packed to the point that people have to sleep on floors and not know when their next court day is, or the next time they're going to see a family member. The truth is that the militarism in this country is all about profit. It is not about family. It is not about love. It is not about morals. It is not about values. It's about profit. And I could keep going. Like, it gets me so angry because, like I said, I have a lot of stories in my head and a lot of fighters that I could think about that created a path, at least for DACA, for the Dreamers. I'm gonna go though because I do have to get on the call that I'm minutes late for. But Santiago, I love you and bendición. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Stop by, please.
Yes.
Okay. Now about what Christian says so clearly, the system create control, and they control through the new gadget, the phone, the new game and television, the real or so-called sport. All that is manipulation of our mind, and not allowed to us to thinking what really is important, what really is have value to the next generation. I need to emphasize in what the philosopher, Mexican philosopher, say, Jose Maria Vasconcelos, 1910. We are the brass race.
The brass race.
Okay? The bronce, la
The
raza de bronce.
Bronze race.
And another thing I need to emphasize in this conversation, who control the language, control the outcome. Why they try to remove book, why to try to indoctrinate people, indoctrinate our children. Because who control the language, control the outcome.
Wow. Okay. There was a lot that Christian just said, and that you just added. I know all this is happening, especially like he mentioned modern day slavery and how it's intrinsically connected to the proportion of blacks and Latinos in jail right now, and what you just said. Whoever controls the language controls the outcome, and
Yes.
and that's what we're experiencing today, and I don't know if there will be an end to it. But I wanted to, before we end, we only have 5 minutes left and we have to end soon, but I want you to quickly talk about the mural and what you do at Buen Amigo, so the listeners can know and they can come and see what's happening at the shop.
You can say...
Papi, ¿puedo decir algo
Sí,
rápido?
sí.
Okay, so real quick, I'll just give a quick synopsis. So in the very beginning, when my parents, my sister and I came as refugees, we came with 7 suitcases, 5 of which belonged to us with our personal belongings, but the other 2 contained handmade crafts from Chilean widows that were made in Chile. My parents sold these items and then sent the money back to our family in Chile, and this kept going. And then we started selling crafts from other countries in Latin America. And then my mom and dad bought this building in 1989, which is 114 Elmwood Avenue. And then the Latin American Cultural Association was born like in the late 70s when my mom and dad were selling the crafts initially. I just wanted to say that because I think that story is so cool about the suitcases.
They came with 7 suitcases. That's crazy.
About El Buen Amigo, is the board, I'm not present at that time. I say I want to leave. You have absolutely freedom to put the name. And they decide El Buen Amigo. In the Christian religious, El Buen Amigo, what
Good.
Jesus says, is willing to give the life for their friends. And not my case, because I don't put the name, okay? But we try to be a buen amigo with the people who is under horrific condition all the time, here and in Chile.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of good things in the building. We make Spanish class, we make field trip for the school, we have an art gallery, we do poetry reading, we give movie night, and a lot of more activities. We are severe constrained with time because we are under construction. Just in January 2021, we find out the building is the most older building in Buffalo. Started in 1805, 1806, and sold in 1807. And 1828, Mr. Lewis Fallen Allen buy the building. Why that area is Allentown? Why is Allen Street? Is huge amount of material, huge amount of money, and huge amount of law to try to put that building in the right footing. Okay?
Wow.
Sad to say, the people in charge of the money, councilman, legislator, governor, and so on, because the corruption is so high, demanding a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
And the red tape is so complicated, very difficult to handle, because I am a foreign guy. I don't have idea what is the right way to obtain
The
money
legal, the
through
policies,
the
yeah.
proper authorities.
Yeah.
They know it's the older building, but they not send to the proper professional personnel to give me a hands. Okay? Because we preserve that building not for my family, not for me. We preserve that building for the good people of Western New York. It's our legacy. We bring a technical thing from Chile in order to can sustain any kind of tornado or hurricane. Many people don't like that because it's so massive contraction. My family, my daughter, my wife, we spend a huge amount of money. But
Yes.
it's the way to say
And-
thank you.
And we thank all the listeners. You heard him. Go to El Buen Amigo on Elmwood. What is the address?
114, very close to
114.
Allen Street.
Yes, and you will see the beautiful art that they have from the artisans that he displays. And this has been Talking Peace. Together we've been talking peace and truth and in love. And
Thank you.
we are off the air.
Thank you very much.